Stephen and I are on the same page.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Talk at 8, another interesting and exciting episode. We are now on season 3. We've done this for a few years, and before this, we did it on TV and same format. We've now just taken it online purely because of simplicity and COVID that has changed life. So we moved into a different digital platform. So same format, same principle. You're welcome to ask your questions. We're joined by 4 guests, and tonight we're talking tennis. So we've got Zamba, we've got Fahmi, we've got Chantal, and we've got Stephen, and they'll be telling us a little bit about their journeys in tennis. We're chatting about the recent interprovincial Masters Championships, and anything else that you may throw into the fire, and anything else that comes out. But before we get to that, let's start with Zama. Zama, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Elton, and good evening, everyone listening. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good. Tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do? And a little bit about your tennis history before we do anything else.
Oh, okay. So I work at the University of Cape Town. I'm a doctor at the African Gender Institute, and that's where I work. And
Academic doctor, not a medical doctor.
Yes, PhD doctor, doctor of books. Yes, and I was actually, it's so interesting that this came along because I was actually talking to a friend of mine about tennis and the history of tennis in my family. And I was just thinking about my grandmother is actually the one who taught herself how to play tennis because she couldn't, obviously, back then, black people weren't allowed to play tennis. So her and a group of people taught themselves how to play. And then my mother as well. And my mother, I was recently going through albums and there were newspaper clippings of her talking and in the 80s and how she was number 2 in KwaZulu-Natal. And she was really good at tennis. And then I was fortunate enough as well to have been professionally trained since I was 8 years old, and I played tennis. And then I went overseas on a full tennis scholarship to Florida University for my first degree. So yeah, tennis is very much embedded in my family. My sister plays, my dad is the only one who doesn't play. But yeah, it's just, and then having moved from KwaZulu-Natal to Cape Town, I was very fortunate to have found an amazing tennis team, Old Mutual, with our captain Fahmi here. So it was like literally leaving home and finding another home here. And I'm so happy with our team. They're amazing people. So yeah, that's my tennis journey so far.
Sure. A rich tennis history, which will unpack a bit later, because clearly you're not the only one who's got a tennis history, and we'll get there in a bit. Fahmi, good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do? What's your involvement in tennis?
Yeah, good evening, Elton, and the viewers and my fellow panel colleagues here. So I do have a day job, work for a financial institution, and that keeps me quite busy. And then on the other side, doing the love of the sport, love of the game, I play tennis, but then I'm also the chairperson of Cape Town Masters Tennis and also the host of the recent interprovincial tournament that we had. So yeah, I think I'm not as fortunate as Zama in terms of her tennis career thus far. So yes, I started playing probably when I was 18 years old. First time getting onto a tennis court also. Before that, it was like street tennis that I played. And it was then, I think once you get 30, you enter the master scene. So previously it was just playing league tennis within the Cape Town Tennis League, Western Province League. But then once you enter the masters tennis, you get to play tournaments, meet new people, and then eventually start playing interprovincials, nationals, and then go into world champs as well. And I've had those experiences. I represented Cape Town tennis multiple times at interprovincial level, and then also represented Tennis South Africa at the World Champs in Miami in 2018. So definitely, it's hard work. It's obviously you don't get paid for it, but it's all for the love of the game, creating the sport, growing the sport for others also to enjoy. Yeah, that's my side.
Sure, and I think we'll touch on that payment and non-payment story a bit later. So let's park that for now. Chantal Dreyer, good evening, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you.
Good evening, Elton, and everyone else. I think I did say hi to the panel. If anyone's watching, good evening to you too. Whoa. Yeah, I think very much like Zama, my tennis is also through our family. My parents played, my sister plays, myself, my brother. Kind of attempted to play, but was never really that good. So basically, from 10 years old, you're running around next to a tennis court, or from 8 really, but you don't play because your parents are too busy on the court. So you're kind of just on the side with that other parent or other tennis player who's not really on the court yet. And you grow up there and you kind of go through the motions until you actually pick up a tennis racket. So I've been around since about 10. I played, all through my sort of junior life. And somewhere in high school, a friend of mine asked me to sort of join the scene, come help her at a tournament. Must have been, well, I don't even want to say this because I might give away my age, but somewhere there, early high school, started doing the convening with under 12s and under 10s, and it kind of just stuck. So you're playing tennis, and then suddenly your free time, you're earning a little bit of money. I think that time it was maybe 100 Rand a day. But, again, you're a kid. 100 Rand is a lot of money. And then I had the pleasure of meeting Estelle Bosman. She was the junior convener at the time. Very lovely woman, very passionate about the sport. And I think my love and my passion, besides my parents and, just being around it, stems a lot from what I learned from her. She was, I would still say, one of the best junior conveners, I think, in the country, from a love for the game and the extra and above that she did for the kids around, especially the previously disadvantaged. She was just an angel. And so, like I said, I think I got a lot of that passion from her. And then I officially joined then Western Province Tennis, now Cape Town Tennis, in about 2008 in an official capacity. And it was her that brought me on board to basically deal with junior squads, junior tournaments still. And it just evolved from there, I guess. I do have a degree in sports management and recreation, so that helped a little bit on the side. But I think just being on the ground has taught me a lot. And you know what? All these years later, I'm still here.
And you kind of the backbone of Cape Town Tennis right now, Chantal.
Look, I
think if you talk tennis, they say, no, Chantal will know. Just ask her.
No. Listen, I think the people who really, really know me know that I'm sitting in this seat here, and it's the last place I want to be. I'm very much a background person. I don't need to be in the limelight. This is very awkward. But I think a lot of what you maybe experience when you guys are on the court has a little bit to do with me, because again,
just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Actually, a lot.
If you guys are not enjoying what you do, if you're not enjoying your tennis experience, then obviously I'm doing something wrong, So I'm kind of there. My fingers in almost everything, I would say.
Absolutely, every bit of tennis that is played in Cape Town comes through your hands in one way or another, either before, during, or after. So well done to you for your involvement. Thank you for the tireless years you put into the sport.
Thanks, Alton.
Stephen, tell us a little bit about you. I don't know if your history goes as far back as Zama and Chantal, but tell us a little bit about you. You're on mute. Unmute you. Stephen, you mute. Stephen, you need to unmute yourself.
Always got to be one, right?
You see, even Stephen is nervous.
There we go. Sorry, you think we'd be over it by now, right? But clearly not. So evening, everyone, and my fellow panel. Thank you for helping me there, Elton. So I'm an M&A attorney based in Stellenbosch. We mainly work in the innovation space, so seeing lots of technology-driven work and entrepreneurs. So that's an exciting part of my day life. But then as part of a very strong passion for me is tennis. It's something that started when I was very young as well. Growing up in sort of the Nelspruit area at the time, my dad would bring me along, even as a baby, if I have it right, to his local tennis club. And I would be in the care with my mother, but I would be in that environment from a very young age, seeing club tennis in South Africa. And that carried on into my junior years for when I could finally pick up a racket. I remember at some point we moved a few times, but we landed in Bryanston, where I would ride my bicycle to our local tennis club, Bryanston Sports Club in Gauteng, and it was every day. I'd be just hitting against a wall, day after day after day after school. The first thing I did was ride that bicycle and just hit against the wall. And eventually, some people noticed this dedicated youngster who just was obsessed with this game, and they started telling me, no, come in. I actually had a particular influencer in my life, Brad Dore, who actually pulled me aside and made me his water boy effectively while he was playing league tennis on Sundays, and did so in a way that I could watch him play and just be involved in the community. And slowly but surely, I actually then joined the club with my dad, and as a junior started playing men's league tennis for Bryanston Sports Club. And I think that's when the bug hit me, and it just carried on until eventually I even started playing tournaments, going down to Bloemfontein and looking for seeding and ranking, and got very involved through the support of a coach. And at some point, though, as a junior, somewhere around 16, I think it became too much, and I just lost something. The spark got lost for me, and I stopped it. Next thing you know, I was in university, getting my LLB. After that, I rode a desk for 10 plus years, and I just completely lost that spark. And as I was getting my 30s, when I wanted to get married, I realized I needed to get into shape. And I absolutely hated gym. I hate gym with a passion. I could do it in my 20s, but I wasn't going to do it in my 30s. And I said, okay, well, let me try again. And it just so happened that Brad Dore, that same very instrumental mentor when I was younger, was at Edgemead Tennis Club, and which was relatively close to where I stay. And I could then meet up with him, and between me and my dad, he then started joining Edgemead Tennis Club, now based in Cape Town as well. So I started getting involved again in the club tennis scene, and it was an amazing journey. Picked it up. I absolutely sucked at first, but then some of that muscle memory started to kick in, and ever since I've been growing, and now got to a point where I'm back into the club league tennis for Edgemead Tennis Club. I even joined Brad, his Toro or Trio Tribe training sort of community, where he has a sort of high performance squad with a lot of juniors. So I have a privilege that I can actually train with them on a weekly basis. And since now that I'm at this age, I've actually now started going into that Masters tournaments that Fahmi mentioned, and I'm starting this year. It was my first introduction to it, and I had the absolute honor to be invited to join the Interprovincial Tournament Masters this past few weeks, and it was an incredible experience. So I'm someone who's come back into the sport after a break.
Interesting. So we got a rich history of tennis in 3 different provinces in South Africa, which is very interesting. I like that, and we'll explore that a little bit. So let's delve into the first bit. So my question to all of you is, Stephen, you and Zama have now had your first experience in Masters. So I'm gonna come to that. Before we get to that, Fahmi and Chantal, can the two of you just explain to us, Chantal, from your perspective, firstly, what does it take to put the tournament on? And then Fahmi, from your perspective as tournament director, working with Chantal, between the two of you, how does it work? And then we'll give the two of them, the other two, a chance to explain what their first experience was like playing in a Masters tournament. So Chantal, I mean, you would, Fahmi would come with a date and say, this is the date for Masters. It tag you and say, right, that's your problem. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I suppose pretty much. Again, the first thing we would need is people. And I think I don't know if we're talking tournaments in general or we're talking specifically about this Masters Interpro. Both. Well, again, you'd still need the people. Slightly different for Masters, because in Fahmi and his committee, we do a lot of that sort of legwork. You know, we put the correspondence out there to whatever specific age group it is, and we say, this is the Interpro, this is where it's happening. Are you guys sort of available? You know, and they've become a little bit clever now, so they do the whole Google form and everybody just dumps their information on there. But then it falls on the committee to sort of sit and put those teams together. And I know that, I mean, for them, there's A Cup, there's B Cup, there's Shield, again, the age groups are every 5 years. So a lot of work goes into that. But luckily for me, that is their baby. So they sit and they put those teams together and they match them up lovely. I mean, I must say we had very strong teams this year, but Fahmi will explain more of that difference in a bit.
Yeah.
But inevitably, from a tournament perspective, in general, we put the dates out there and people sort of enter. Again, from a junior perspective, under 10s all the way through to open. For the Masters, 30 plus up until I think they're 80 plus, if we still have a few of those left, I think. And yeah, then the legwork starts with the finding of the venues, finding your officials, and doing that scheduling, which has also become a lot easier over time. I remember in the beginning sitting at Rondebosch, and for a tournament that's got 200, 300 entries, sometimes up to 600 entries, depending on what event it was, you could sit in that hall at the bottom of that cold stadium. The worst was one evening, I think I left there at about 12:30. It was pitch dark. We couldn't see. Everything was manual. We're sitting there with draw chips, you know, sifting through 64 chips, 128 chips, manually doing everything. So the system now, at least I say, does a lot of that work for you. They enter, we do the draws, or TSA does the draws, we do the scheduling, and inevitably just try to make it as smooth an experience as possible on the day. Yeah, there's more to it, and that details are just too much from a nitty-gritty perspective. But in essence, that's what we need them to enter first of all, because without them, we don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
And then again, just the experience. Make sure it's smooth, or as smooth as possible once the days arrive.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chantal. If you just tuned in, welcome. We're chatting all things tennis tonight. We're chatting to Fahmi, Zama, Chantal, and Stephen, and they're chatting about their tennis journey and tennis as tennis is played currently in Cape Town. Fahmi, from your perspective, I mean, you as the head honcho for Masters tennis in Cape Town, what's it like, and how do you come about the date? Do you just come suck a date when you're available, or how does it work? Is there part of a calendar?
So there is a calendar, Alton. So we don't just choose a date. So there's a TSA calendar that we follow. So every year, towards the end of the year, last quarter of the year, the chairpersons across the provinces meet to discuss. So we do have a workshop where we discuss Masters tennis, as well as a calendar as well. And the calendar basically looks at, so the tournaments that we run throughout the year across the country. Now, from a Cape Town perspective, we have 3 specific tournaments that we hold. There's one in January that Cape Town Tennis is the host, and then the November tournament is also a tournament that we host. Then there's one in the Winelands in Strand, which is normally around September, around the Heritage holiday. That's a 3 basically in the Cape Town area. And then with that, you have your nationals as well as interprovincial. So the past 2 years, Western Cape Province hosted SA Nationals. So it is a tender process where every 2 years it will be held in a different province. So this past 2 years it was in Cape Town. So Cape Town hosted it last year, so 2024, and then Winelands was a host 2025. In terms of the Masters, it's also, so we do have 2 Masters. It's for the age groups 30 to 59 plus, and then the second one is from 60 plus to 80 plus. So we've hosted the 30 plus to 59 plus age group this year. And then Gauteng will host in August the 60 plus to 80 plus this year. Now, the interprovincial is also, it gets rotated across provinces. And we also look at which provinces can host it based on court availability. We also look at the weather conditions, like when do you host it in those provinces, and then it also depends on the ITF schedule. So we do have world championships for the various age groups throughout the year, and that calendar also dictates when do we schedule our tournaments in order for players to qualify to qualify for world champs. So it's not just we pick a date and yes, everybody goes along. It is kind of strategic as well based on where we place it. But then in terms of masters that we just hosted, so Chantal covered part of the work that she's done. From my side, it's obviously creating the Google form, get the message out to the respective masters players on our records, but then we also distribute it to clubs to attract new players to join the scene, like Stephen has joined as well. For players to come and join us within the masters calendar, but then also interprovincial specifically. So it starts off with probably a month before the closing date, or probably 6 weeks before closing date, that we put the message out. People need to indicate their availability, their interest to play. Then, so that would be sent from a Cape Town tennis perspective. But when we select the teams, we look at it from a provincial perspective, so Western Province. So I need to work alongside my counterparts from a Eden District perspective as well as Winelands. And the 3 of us make up the Western Province. So each of us will send through the respective notifications to our registered players. Once they respond, then we will have quite a few meetings to then put the teams together. This year we've tried to have the teams selected in a district format in order to create that more competitive environment across the participating players, basically. And that's where Chantal's feedback was, or comment was, that the strength was quite balanced. It was very competitive, but also enjoyable. And I think in terms of player feedback, team feedback, it definitely worked out. I think the only challenge probably is once you host it here in Cape Town, you don't feel that that team, I would say the way the team connects and go out for dinners in the evening versus when you go out to play in a different province. So let's say we go to KZN, then you'll have that team connection. People is always moving along. So they play for the day, plan where they're going to have dinner, socialize the evening, try and strategize, talk about matches again. Whereas when you play home, it's more, you play the day, socialize a bit, but then you have to go off to your families again. And I'm sure, Stephen, you probably experienced that as well. But we've been having those chats around how do you experience it differently when you're playing elsewhere. But yeah, it's definitely the interprovincial scene is just it's a great environment. You do have regular players that you see that you participate and play against from different provinces, and then it's competitive as well. But I'm sure Stephen and Zama will give more insights to that. One thing I can say is the provinces that came and players that came for the first time that came to play in Cape Town. Yes, we had challenges with weather the one day, the Thursday, but after that, they said, "Oh, Cape Town is just showing off with the blue skies, the mountain that they're seeing, the venues that we're playing at." It was like for them, it was obviously a absolute great experience and just environment to be in. So thank you, Cape Town, for showing off, though.
Fahmi, thanks for sharing with that. If you tuned in, you're welcome to drop your comments on Facebook, YouTube, or Insta, as Sandra's done. Question to you, Fahmi. Good evening, everyone. What is the entry uptake like once you call to enter goes out to these tournaments? Sandra's question on Facebook. How quickly do people respond to say, yes, I'm going to play, or no, I'm not going to play?
So the response is actually quite positive and quick in terms of the ones, because I'll create the Google form, have the link sent to Chantal, and she sends it to our database of registered players, but we also send it to clubs. And I've seen like within days, people start responding already.
Okay.
That they are available, they're interested.
That's great. So there's a hunger for competition.
Absolutely. Look, this Interpro we had 145 players competing, which was across provinces. And even the tournaments that we run in January, November, it's average between 140 and 170 players that participate as well.
Sure. That's massive. Zama, what was your maiden journey like playing in the Masters?
It was very interesting because as a junior, I would play for Interprovincial for KwaZulu-Natal. So I was just thinking that the first Interpro I played was under 12 for KZN, and we came to Cape Town. And so as a junior, every time we played Interprovincial, it was always Western Cape and Gauteng Province, Gauteng Central specifically, since Gauteng gets 3 teams for some reason. I never understand that, but that's a conversation for another day. So it was always, those were always our rivals. And whoever played who, whether it be semifinals, essentially that'd be the final. And then we'd always, well, not to brag, but it's fact, KZN would always win the junior tournament. And Western Cape was, like I said, our biggest rivals. And I remember one time we played them in the semifinals and we beat them, and then we all went to Rotanga Junction. And for some reason, our manager forgot us, and Western Cape gave us a ride back to our hotel. So they were very generous. They didn't leave us there as 12-year-old kids at Rotanga Junction. So I have a very close, like I said, soft spot for Western Cape. And then when I moved here, I remember Interprovincial came up again, and Fahmi was like, okay, is Zama going to play for us? I was like, I don't know. My blood is black and white, KZN colors. How do I play for Western Cape? And he was like, well, if you play for KZN, you're going to play against us, and we're your team. That's weird. And I was like, okay, you're right. That is going to be weird. So then I had to accept that I'm here now, and I have to play for Western Cape, and that is my life now. But it's just so interesting that as a junior or as KZN, and then as an adult, I'm Western Cape. So, but I really enjoy Interprovincial. It's, I have more appreciation for it now as an adult. I mean, I did as a junior, but I was a kid. But I really enjoy that, as Fahmi said, we play for the love of the sport, and it's nice to be able to play against people who you play against as juniors sometimes. And I know for league, people who move from KwaZulu-Natal who are here as well, who seem to remember me, and I play against them. So it's fun. It's social. It's fun. And when I think about tennis as well, I think about everything I learned in tennis, being able to for example, if you're down a set in a match and believing that you can come back, you can always come back. You need to be strong and resilient. And those are sort of the skills that I take in even into my professional life as well, as to, it might look bad now, but you have to keep hoping and being positive that it can turn around, and it does turn around. So that's why I always really appreciate tennis, and I really appreciate my parents for really at times forcing me to play it. I wasn't really keen when I was a junior, like young, and then I got into it, and then it was fun. And like I said, there's skills that I can able to bring into other aspects of my life that I learned from the tennis court that I will forever be grateful for. So I really enjoyed the Masters. I really enjoyed Interprovincial. I enjoyed it when they played in KZN because I was at home, and then here as well at home. So it is a good time. And the weather, like Fakmi said at the beginning, was terrible, but at the end it was good. And KZN people attributed to them. They're like, yes, KZN brought the good weather. I was like, okay. But yeah, it really is a fun time. And yeah, thanks.
Okay. So, Stephen, what was your experience? And then I'm going to piggyback on that and ask you your ex players that you played with when you were junior. Did you play against any of them by any chance in this tournament? And what was that experience like? Zama had a somewhat experience trying to decide whether she's KZN or Western Cape. Did you have a similar kind of debate in your head?
Luckily, no, I didn't get to see any old nemesises on the court. Or nemesi, whichever is the right name. But no, luckily not. So I grew up mainly in Gauteng. So I looked carefully amongst, we didn't actually face off directly. We faced off some of the Free State in our division, but I didn't see anyone around that I recognized or could see from my old days. So no, unfortunately not. Luckily, I got to have a fresh start. But yeah, no, the experience was an absolute treat. There is a really great community around Cape Town tennis, but to have that experience of seeing other provinces and other clubs and how they bring that together, and it does have something more special. So I think coming from predominantly, I'd say, a club tennis environment, I can see you have a close-knit group of people and you play with them all the time, and that's great. And you get a great sense of camaraderie that you develop amongst those people. Now you get to take those people in your club environment and from other clubs. And oftentimes you're seeing these players because, for example, in our team, it was actually by chance, it had both myself and another player from Edgemead. But then we also had another gent who joined us from Constantia Tennis Club. And we had some ladies from Gardens and Calvin and Camps Bay. So these people you tend to see, and you even tend to compete with them again in your club tennis leagues that happen every week on a Saturday afternoon. So you have a sense of camaraderie and also, I guess, competition with some of these people. But now you put on one team, and now you're facing off people that you don't get to see regularly at all. And for me, it was a complete surprise who I'm going to face off. So it was really a wonderful sort of environment to get with the nuances that come with competing with new people and players, and the spirit that the teams brought was incredible. I mean, the KZN guys stood out. They have such a lovely ethos around them, and they're just such a close-knit team as well. And you could see it. It was just lovely to interact with them, and they came here and they're going to have a jol in Cape Town. That the time in the afternoon they had off, they had booked themselves wine tours, and they were going to enjoy the experience and make a lacquer trip out of it. And you could see they were making the best of Cape Town and what it had to offer, but then coming and bringing their A game the next day to make sure, with whatever hangover they might have to have dealt with, bring their A game, bring it to fight off on the next day. And it was that was something that's very unique to see. So you get it's definitely a new level that you get compared to competing in your local club league week after week. There's a new level of competition, and not to mention the team dynamic. Sorry, recovering from a flu still. The team dynamic is there, that you also are now as a team giving feedback to one another, strategies, tactics, orchestrating how you would want to take advantage of either your strengths or other teams' weaknesses that you might be aware of if you can detect them, or hopefully haven't kidded yourself into. And you will then try, that creates a whole new level of fun to the game. And it's not just about, mono v mono like you would in a typical Masters tournament, where you just bring yourself and maybe a doubles partner or mixed partner and you then fight it out. It's very much a solitary sport otherwise, or like individual sport. This brings it much closer to a team sport, which is an absolute different angle to tennis. So very interesting and different experience from what I'm used to. So yes, no, it was an absolute delight.
You're welcome to ask your questions, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Insta, to the panel. Chantal, I'm going to ask you an easy question. My question to you is, please tell us the different ages, and because I know tennis starts with different color balls, so explain the different color ball categories into Masters. Just give us that categorization, and then I'll go into the next question to everybody.
Look, in the beginning, obviously the little ones nowadays, I think about, maybe it's 8 years ago now. Before, everybody played with the same ball, your hard, 100% pressure kind of vibe ball. But about a few years ago, they started introducing sort of red, orange, and green ball. So the idea is, when you're little, 4, 5, 6 years old even, you then start and you're playing that red ball. The red ball is, I think it's like almost 25% pressure. I can't quite remember, but it's also a slightly bigger ball. So obviously with a bigger ball, it bounces almost perfectly for that little person. Where a hard one will just, we all did it as juniors. I mean, you can ask Zama, Steven will know. We didn't know the difference. There was only one ball. But now you can actually see the progression, and we call this Rainbow Kids nowadays, Rainbow Kids tournaments, where there is red, orange, and green. Once the kids kind of, have, I drop with this, found the flow of what they're meant to be doing, they progress to the orange ball. Again, I mean, you're going to get a good junior you could probably start on an orange ball, but also just slightly harder. And then that one goes right back to the normal size of a yellow tennis ball. And then the 8, 9, 10-year-olds play with a green dot ball, which is 75%. Also still bouncing nicely so that it's not sort of jumping on you too fast. Green dot ball. And then the one we all used to, the hard yellow ball, 100%. And they start with that from 10, 11 years old, because once you're turning 11, you're suddenly moving into the under 12 age group. And I think with us, coastal guys, our under 12s play with the hard ball, where the inland guys are still using the green dot ball for their under 12s. So for our kids, it's a little weird, because when they're here, they're playing with hard balls. The second they go up to Bloemfontein or anywhere else, suddenly, boom, I'm going back to green dot. So it's kind of weird for them, but again, something that they must adjust to. And then you play with that yellow ball until you're 80 plus, I guess. So all through your junior life from 10 years old.
And tennis is played in which age category? Is it 2-year, 3-year gaps? How does it work?
So with the juniors, it's 2-year gaps. Under 10, under 12, under 14, under 16, under 18. We've kind of converted our under 18 now to open, to give the 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds also somewhere to play, because I feel like that's still a section that's lacking. I think everywhere. We need to give that age group some attention. So the only thing we could think of at the time was to make it open. So open is for anyone. Fahmi could enter open tournament if you want to do. I think the oldest guy we have playing in a junior tournament in the open section is 56. And he enters religiously, and he gives the kids a hard time. He wins around here, and then they crying in the pockets there on the side. Open is for anyone. Then the Masters guys, I find Fahmi, was it 35 before and then it became 30?
Yeah, it used to be 35, then they dropped it to 30.
So yeah,
And
now
we're
so,
also
and then,
exploring it to even drop it to 25, maybe, to catch that gap like you're indicating.
yeah, because it needs to be made smaller.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing going on there. So 25 is a good idea, and they are in 5-year periods. So 30, 35s, 40s, 45s, all the way up to 80 plus.
Okay, so that answers that leads me to the question that Fahmi's already kind of answered. So Stephen is a product of what we call the missing middle. So you play up until 18, 19, Chantal, you then get married, you get a boyfriend, you get a girlfriend, you start studying, and then you disappear, Stephen, because life happens. And then you want to get married, or you have blood pressure issues, and then you start coming back. You know? So my question then is, how do we get people to be excited about tennis? Other than in your case, Stephen, you were forced to come back in inverted commas because you needed to fit into the tux to get married. You know, what are some of the
blood pressure is getting too high, and then you come back and it's getting too high again because of the tennis. But anyway, that's.
So what can we do differently? Or is it because it's a trend not only in tennis, it's in all sports, and master stuff has become the biggest growing element of sport now, because people are coming back 30, 35, like Stephen, either because of the doctor says you got a health condition, or because they want to get away from their partner. So what do we need to do differently to keep people engaged from your perspectives? Because you've now all been through, some of you played internationally on a scholarship. What's it like overseas? Is it the same problems, or is it the South African issue? Any one of you can go first.
I've been named in shame, so I'll take a stab at it. No, there's a generational thing. I think when it comes to lifestyle, we're naturally all driven towards very much sort of autonomy, having control of what we're doing, which leads you to things more like gym and getting into things that you can keep and manage control. So you end up in a bad cycle, whereas tennis and other sports require community. You need to be out there. So I think that becomes sometimes our narrow focus in the lifestyles we live is leaving us a little bit isolated and getting us out of that rhythm, because it takes a little of investment to be in a community. Tennis requires you to also give back. You need to participate in your club, grow your club. There are elements of what you need to be able to give. It's not just, you can't just expect a service. Those courts are maintained, you don't pay a fee to maintain. That might be too difficult. Sure, you pay membership fees, but you actually need to participate in the community to actually help grow it and help the courts be maintained, to give your input, to be there and be involved in what's going on. And I think that becomes a challenge for especially young people who start their careers. They get distracted, partners, whatever it might be, and life moves on. And you wake up and you're 30 and you're fat and you need to get in shape like me. So I then had to make a change. So I think that is a driver, is people see that, but also then they start looking for community. So I think that is another pull element. I guess the young is a generational issue that, as you say, there's that big gap, that middle that loses it. I think for tennis, I don't know how other sports, especially team sports, to keep that knit well together. But I think that when you've got a strong friendship base, you've got to have something that drives you into keeping that together. So I see, for example, just looking at what the young guys that Brad works with at the Toro and the trio tribe sort of community, as they call it. It's what's really nice and special there is these boys and girls are working together, and they go on trips. They do more than just play tournaments. They are touring together. They'll stop off. They have an experience. They will have camping adventures. They do things together, usually part of the touring experience, but that brings them closer together. And even as they go into university and other things, they stay close because they've built those relationships, and it keeps them embedded in the club environment, and it keeps them wanting to stay involved. So that's one way, is I think it's establishing those relationships while you are still in there and not getting lost. But as we know, life goes on. You now get a job that might require to move. So Now that person's not holding them too close. So like me, I move provinces. So it's difficult. Now you got to come in. I think awareness and just knowing that there's an element of lifestyle, active lifestyle, is basically maybe one of the best things to show that you can do it in a way that has fun. You don't have to just run a treadmill staring at a wall. There are ways to make what you want to do achievable, but maybe also goals. Put goals to it. Make things that you want to achieve out of it. It helps when you're not just walking along. You say, actually, I want to develop, I want a goal. It drives you forward. So having something that's maybe a bit of a broader focus than just your job is keeping an eye and giving an eye on the prize. Maybe there's just something there that we have to bring, maybe some more ways in tennis that we are allowing an opportunity to win events, do things, have goals that you can walk towards. And I think the league community is responding to that with what they call these shootout tournaments now as a method of trying to attract, I think, younger players and maintain them in the sport by saying, okay, well, we won't just have league on the Saturday afternoons. We'll also do a shootout tournament where you can win prizes. You can have the chance to compete in a team. And that is some draw cards that I see the Cape Town Tennis responding with. So, yeah, I think there are thoughts there, but I don't have the answers to that problem. Nobody's
got the answer, Stephen. Nobody's got a definitive answer because it's different. Fahmi, Stephen's spoken a bit about goals. What are some of the goals that you guys have in the Masters portfolio for Cape Town Tennis going forward to try and deal with the influx of 100 people that's going to come now at the end of this year when they go for their discovery checks and they get told they've got high blood pressure and they need to start playing something?
So look, definitely the goal is to continue growing the tennis community and the Masters, especially Masters community. I think the challenge is obviously cost is a factor. So for traveling, for people to participate in tournaments, entry fees. So when we do, again, from the Masters perspective at the workshop, we do discuss entry, tournament fees and stuff. But the cost factor for interprovincials and tournaments is also something to consider. Even just, I think the flight prices is insane. Just hearing what some players had to pay for coming down from KZN, Gauteng to participate in the tournament. The flight prices is expensive. So those are the challenges that we have to deal with because it impacts the numbers of people participating. But it's definitely just tapping into the ones that used to play, that stopped playing, but there is some that's making their comeback now. And it's probably because they can see paddle is growing and they don't have the love for paddle. We all sitting here don't like paddle. We are 100% for tennis. So it's tapping into those guys, get them back, like you say, grow the community again. But our goal is to increase the numbers, definitely.
And I'm going to pause that there because there's a question that's just come in about paddle from Yolanda Isaacs on YouTube. She doesn't like paddle like all of us on this panel. She says it's just not the real deal. What's your feel on that sport? Do you think it will replace or take over tennis? I'm going to give each of you 2 minutes to answer that, and then we're going to come back to the other question. Do you think paddle is going to take over the world and replace tennis? Personally, I don't think so. What is your views?
No, that's never going to happen. If anything, I feel extremely bad for squash because it's always been in the shadow of tennis. And then this thing called paddle comes along and it's just like, what is this? I think it's just a trend. It's going to pass and people are going to realize tennis has longevity and tennis is the best. So you might as well stick with the real deal.
How succinct is that answer, I ask you?
Oh, throwing straight at squash as well. That's well.
Exactly. When you cover all the record sports, you just didn't touch badminton, but you'll park badminton for now.
My mom used to play badminton. I don't even hear you say that.
Listen, I used to play badminton as well. Don't be like that. That's how I'm raising it, you know? So Zama, here's two questions for you. Let me ask the first one. Let me go to this one first. Same person, Yolanda says, how did you get your scholarship in your earlier years to play tennis overseas? What was that like? How did you get scouted?
Okay, so I played tennis as a junior, and I was a very good junior in KZN. So back in that time, we had to you apply to a university that has a full tennis scholarship. It offers you, and then you sort of had to take a video of yourself playing. And I remember being on the court with my coach, John Yule, and the videographer there taking a video, and then we had to mail it to them so they could see me. And then I got offers. I had three of them. It was North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. So ended up going with Florida. So yeah, that's how that happened.
Okay. So that answers that. The next question, which is open to all of you, but it was directed at Zama. Firstly, how can a more senior person get into tennis? I'm a couch potato, and that is an open question. Firstly, Yolanda, I'd say you must speak to Fafme and come join the Masters.
I was going to say that. Yeah, Fafme, you can go ahead.
Absolutely. I see Yolanda sounds like she wants to come back into tennis, so definitely come and join us. We'll make sure that couch potato is no more.
And I know somebody other than the website who's got a full list of all the club details, contact names, and everything. Follow my eyes, don't look now. Hey, Chantal?
Yeah, look, I think it's important to remember. We have an office. There's a number you can call. We try to direct people generally in the area that they reside. But I don't know what a more senior person means, but tennis is for, I think, anybody at any age. It's not as easy to master as some of the other ones, but you can genuinely pick up a tennis racket at any age and start playing. You're not going to look as pretty in the beginning, but I promise you it's a sport that you can play for life. I think my dad started playing tennis. I think he moved here when he was about 18, but he only ever played tennis for the first time at age 35, 38, whatever it was. That's where he met my mother. But again, it is something that he knew nothing about. And I don't know how he ended up on that tennis court that one day, but he still plays today. He's 75 years old. He still plays tennis 3 times a week. And yeah, anybody, any age. Look at Mr. Richards, for example. I feel I always have to mention that man. He is an absolute legend.
And
he's
80 years old.
80 years old.
And
January,
he won the January tournament.
He won. He played.
Tournament.
Absolutely, Fafme.
Played down
70
into
plus.
the 70s. Yeah.
70 plus age group.
And even a dear lady like Barbara.
Oh, no, Auntie Barbara is precious as well. Again, 80 plus. And they're still on the court every single day. And a lot of the tennis clubs have a very good social program. So it's not like you only have to play league on a Saturday afternoon. You can rock up there on a Tuesday. I think they mostly do Tuesdays, Thursdays. There's Thursday league, morning league for the ladies, So more senior, up to whatever age, you can give us a buzz and we'll tell you where to go.
Give us the contact details of the office, Chantal.
Do I have to do that?
Or can I just go to the website and do a contact us on the website?
I'm not. Yes, rather the contact us on the website, because I'm not sure whether the old landline that belonged to Rondebosch has been removed from that website yet. We don't currently have a landline in the office, so my cell phone is that landline, I guess. But
send an email.
Yeah, but contact us through the website. I think that's a new thing we've got now going, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So again, we're there. We respond generally within, an hour or so. But feel free to contact us anytime. Anything tennis, just look at our website.
Okay,
I don't know the answer. I'll send you in the right direction.
So That's good. So tennis is one element of your lives that has kind of infiltrated everything that you do. Zama, you touched on it because the principles you learn as a junior in tennis and even as a senior playing when you are set down, when you're 2 points away from victory. How has that impacted your life outside of tennis, in a work environment, in a personal environment? What's the real impact of sport on your personal lives, each of you? You got 2.5 minutes to answer the question.
Sounds good. Look,
it's not a 5-page essay. It's a 2.5-minute answer.
I think Zama, Stephen, and Fahmi is probably better to answer that question. I find myself still within the position where tennis is my job that I love. So, but I mean, as a player, again, I could have gone in any direction, and somehow I still ended up doing this. I think it's the love for the people, the way they love our sport, meeting, interacting. There's a word I wanted to use, but I actually can't remember. That just highlights sort of what tennis. If you sat next to a tennis court and you knew nothing about it, and you just watched the parents, the players, the children, sort of, even for an individual sport, which I think is part of what Stephen touched on earlier. And then the team dynamic comes in once a year if you're lucky. I don't think they've got junior interpros once a year. The seniors also just once a year. But it's just that passion that beams through it, and that kid winning or that kid losing, crying, not crying. It's just, man, it'll come to me. I'm going to pass on to someone else. That word will come to me, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Let's go to Stephen. Stephen, 2.5 minutes or 1.5 minutes. How has sport changed your life?
Start the clock. It's a profound question, but the short, simple answer I can think of at this moment would be to say that dedication. It's a very nuanced sport. It takes a lot of grit to master it, and I'm far from that. But people who go, it shows that you need to be in there. But the biggest thing I think it brings into the personal life for me, the elements other than just that consistency, is you're sitting in as you demonstrated, a scenario where you're 2 points away from maybe victory or loss. It's about solving the problem that's in front of you. It takes a certain maturity in yourself, a recognition of yourself, of where you're at, to calm your emotions, put yourself in a state of mind to solve the problem that's ahead of you. And I think that any person in their professional or career life or personal life, having that generalist toolkit of understanding how to deal with the stress of the moment, of the current scenario you're in, to manage yourself, to understand yourself and how you're going to handle this scenario, is incredibly valuable. And it's a journey that we'll all go on in a lifetime. I'm sure that you're always going to be growing in this area. And I think tennis helps you focus in that and hone that skill to some extent. So yeah, that's for me one of the big ways that I think it just helps in life, is that the ability to make sure you can try solve the problem. Yeah.
Definitely. Fahmi, from your perspective, how has tennis changed your life? What the impact has had on your work and on your personal space?
I think it's definitely assisting with that health, lifestyle balance. Working in a stressful environment and then having that opportunity to go play tennis after that just releases the stress, it relaxes the body, it basically just resets, helps getting you back into shape. Sometimes you also picture the ones who stresses you out during the day in that ball while you're smacking it. That helps with that de-stress. A couple of times I had that, but yeah, no, definitely it just helps balancing the lifestyle.
No,
and then it's also going to no. But look, then it also goes back to just that community that Stephen was touching on. It is a tennis community that you have, like within your clubs and stuff. have your family at home, but you also feel that connection that you have with the club, with your teammates, is also another family that you have. So there is that enjoyment also that you have with just being with them, being on the court. Sometimes you don't even have to play, just be there on the court.
Yeah.
Helps with that as well.
Definitely. Zama, from your perspective, how has sport changed your life? I mean, you're an academic doctor. Has that had any influence on the way that you conducted yourself over time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, tennis for me, it's definitely taught me from a young age to be very disciplined, knowing that, okay, I have to train, I have a coaching session 3 times a week. I can't stay out late. I can't eat soon food. So being disciplined in that and seeing my friends go out and have fun, knowing I can't do that because I have a match or a tournament coming up. And also it also taught me to have very thick skin as well. I mean, being the only Black girl everywhere, good tennis player at that, I had to have a thick skin. I remember my dad would always tell me about that as well, and also taught me how to deal with certain people, different people. Like on the tennis court, if you're dealing with someone who cheats, how do you handle that? And how, if you're dealing with someone who is a very nice person but is a terrible tennis player, or was a horrible person but a very good tennis player. So all of that, learning how to deal with different people in life, because it translates obviously into professional life as well. And I really like what Stephen said, is that it teaches you how to deal with this issue now at hand. Take out the emotions, take out everything that's happening. You're set down, you're 2 match points down. How are you going to turn this around in a positive to you winning it? And then after, if you lose or you win, are you gracious in your loss? Are you, overboard winner, over the top winner? And also to being confident as well, and belief and the grit, knowing that you will always turn it around. So that's how it's changed my life.
Sure. Sure. No wonder you got the PhD. I'm just saying,
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask each of you in closing. I've got a closing comment that I'm going to make, but before I get there, I'm going to ask each of you to round off the conversation. And I'm not a tennis player by any stroke of the imagination. I do play racket sport, but why would you suggest I play tennis? Why are you still playing tennis? What's your involvement in tennis? For those who are tuned in, why would you recommend tennis as a sport to go to? Why are you so passionate about tennis, and why do you still continue to play this game? As your closing comments, you got 2 minutes max, because some people need to get up early to get to work and training. No names mentioned. So, anyone can go first. Why are you still involved in tennis? And why
I think for me, it's obviously the exercise and just the love of the game. I've always liked tennis from being 7 years old, and never had the chance to play on a tennis court. That was only the first time 18 years old. But I think, like Stephen indicated, I don't like the gym. I can go to the gym, but there's just no satisfaction in it. Whereas that is what I get on the tennis court.
Okay, that's your perspective. Stephen, let's go reverse. Stephen, as I have you on the screen.
No, sure thing. Yeah, the love of the game. It's a beautiful one to have there, but why pick up a tennis racket? I guess whatever sport draws to you is probably says something that you should be going for. And that's great. Whatever sport you love, the passion should be authentic. It's what you want to do. Tennis is just what spoke to me, and it's a young age. And I think it was infiltrated through the way I grew up, seeing it with my dad, and just it becomes part of your habits, a part of your life. But what's really cool compared to other sports, for me at least, and why it stuck compared to playing cricket and other school sports that I did, there is a connection with the ball that gives you such a thrill when you can get the right shot. And that moments that you get, just the dopamine hit of it is just so amazing that you can't get away from it. And team sports have their pros and their trade-offs as well, but you're kind of alone on the court, and it makes you feel even that much prouder that you can manage to pull off these amazing things on the court. and it pushes your body in really cool ways. It's actually just the way you move, and it just really is an exciting and thrilling way to pick up a racket and find that you can compete. It's the nuances, the complexity of the game. And to touch on something of why paddle, none of us here like it. I mean, paddle will give you a moment, maybe a few of those little hits, but the complexity of the game, it's got its limitations. Tennis has got, it's a chess game. It's, if you think of it on a graph, pickleball's at the low end on complexity and skill. Then we're moving up to paddle and squash, and tennis is at the top. So yeah, that's why you should pick up a tennis racket.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
I didn't feel enough shade had been thrown in this conversation, so there it is.
Yeah. I'm speechless, Stephen. I'm not even going to go into it. But tell from your perspective, why are you still administratively and involved in tennis?
I was just going to say, you can't tell me I'm still playing. I am one of the naughty ones that I haven't played for a while. They try and convince me all the time. I do miss it sometimes, and I miss it for all the reasons that the rest of the guys have pointed out. I can't even explain to you the friends I have from when I was 10 are still my friends today. When you see that little 6-year-old walking on to their first little rainbow tournament, the excitement, the passion, the dedication that those little ones show, and you watch them grow up. I mean, I'm a great grandmother of tennis already. I mean, the kids I've watched play, they have kids of their own. Some of them have kids, you know. Yeah. So for me, it's that. For me, it's sort of watching them go through the motions, the different emotions, the different phases of life, being there. They can come in the office, they can come to me next to the tennis court, they can sit, they can cry on my shoulder. I think that is it for me. I think that's the reason I'm still there. Half of them, the new ones especially, they almost never see me. Like I said, I'm a background kind of person. But yeah, that's what's kept me around. Relationships I've built, and just seeing the love for the sport in everybody else that walks through the gate. That's nailed it for me.
Okay, that's an interesting answer. Zama, from your perspective, why would you recommend me to play tennis?
I think for all the reasons they've said, and I have to go back to what Chantal said at the beginning. For people who haven't played before, it's not going to be pretty. And I know we make it look easy. Even the people on TV make it look easy, but you must remember they have 2 decades of playing tennis. So it looks beautiful and easy. But with time and dedication and devotion, you can also get there eventually. And I love the community of it. And I'm also a very competitive person. So I'm always competitive with myself as to, okay, I beat this person 6-1, next time it has to be 6-love. So all of that, that's just me. And even professionally, I want to do better than I did last time. I'm my biggest competitor. So, and it's almost, for me, I found it, having moved from KZN to Western Cape, it was almost like I was able to immediately settle because I found a community with my tennis team. So it wasn't as difficult, because it's difficult making friends as an adult. So having people who are really passionate about something that you're passionate about and love, it just makes the transition more smooth. And that's why I love it. And I recommend it for everyone. It's social, it's fun. And yeah, don't do fake tennis. Don't do paddle. Don't do that. Just come to the real thing. The tennis.
Yeah. There is significant shots fired here tonight. Disclaimer, the views of the presenters are not mine. The guests are not mine. But guys, thank you. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your willingness to be on the show. I have a message that has come through that I'm going to read, and that's going to close the show. From the president of Cape Town Tennis, she says, Ms. Ida Bucher says, thank you, Fafmi, for all the hard work in hosting a successful IPT. Chantal, you are a gem at what you do. You are appreciated. Many people are not aware of all the groundwork that goes into hosting an event of this magnitude. Zama and Stephen, it's heartwarming to hear your positive feedback, and your commitment to the game is appreciated. That's all the way from the top of Cape Town tennis. So everybody, thank you for being part of the show. Next week we'll be back, same time, same place. We've got a slightly different plan for next week, so do tune in 8 till 9:15 next week, Wednesday. Keep playing not only tennis, but every sport that you find that appeals to you. And I'm going to leave that right there. I'm not going to ask for debate on that one. But have yourself an amazing week. See you next week, Wednesday, same time, same place. Can the four of you just stay there? Everybody else, thank you very much. See you next week. Ciao.
Thank you.